Welcome to another CoasterKev video with CoasterKev in Scandinavia, along with the Coaster Crew. If you like videos like this, I'd really appreciate your support with a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be talking about day one of the Northern Adventure with Coaster Crew. The first stop of our day was at Bakken, the oldest theme park in the world. This fun park is kind of like a fun fair. You get a lot of different rides, really fun little dark rides with a little ghost train, all sorts of different nice fair rides, as well as some really cool coasters. This park is really beautiful, from the nice theming to the just beautiful scenery of being in a park. You can just walk on your own, see some lakes, see some greenery. It's a really interesting spot, just nestled in the forest.
That was really fun.
The first roller coaster I want to talk about is Mine Train Ulven. This intimate mine train was a lot of fun and my favorite of the park. You'll definitely be dodging tree branches on this one, but it's a lot of fun, and the Helix at the end is just really intense and a lot of fun and low to the ground. It's a really awesome ride, and I recommend it if you're ever in Denmark. Tornado is another fun one if you like spinning roller coasters, but if you're a guy, you can sometimes get a little hurt on this one. The crazy forces off of the lift hill that's really speedy definitely hurts in an area that you don't want to hurt. It doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's not fun. Another fun ride was the Rutschebanen here in Bakken. Although they changed the trains to be a little more modernized without the brakemen, it wasn't the most fun, but it has some fun little pops of airtime on the two double downs. Another roller coaster was the Wild Mouse, which wasn't that exciting, although it does have some nice buildings that you go through, which makes it a little bit more entertaining, but it's just the average Wild Mouse. The log ride was a lot of fun as well, and it's just a nice way to cool off in the summer heat. Overall, this park was really beautiful. I definitely recommend anyone to come out here. It's a lot of fun, but you're not going to need the whole day. After that, we ended up going to Tivoli Gardens, back in Copenhagen where we started our trip. This beautiful park is crowded. It is kind of ridiculous how many people come out to this park when it only has 4 roller coasters. However, as you can see in these videos, it's really beautiful. Demonen is a really cool roller coaster as well. Although it's very compact, this floorless B&M roller coaster packs a punch, and I really enjoyed it. It definitely is short, but overall, you get a fun ride, as long as the line is not too long. But if you need something to pass the time, having a beer during this line helps. The next roller coaster I want to talk about is my favorite. Rutschebanen at Tivoli Gardens is amazing. Such a fun ride, with great airtime in the very back. This brakeman roller coaster is a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend going on it. It's definitely in one of the more beautiful parts of the park with all this rock work. The flat rides at this park are also a lot of fun. They have a variety of different towers that you can enjoy, as well as some really intense flat rides. The camel coaster was a really interesting family flat ride. I had a lot of fun on this one as well, although the line for it was kind of crazy, but that was the recurring theme at this park. This Zero horse coaster with a custom layout was a lot of fun, and Kamelin was the actual name. It's definitely one of the most well-themed family coasters from what I've seen. Milkyveien is also a really fun ride, which is like the Milky Way galaxy. It's a fun coaster that is a powered coaster by Mach. It's not the most entertaining, but a definitely good family fun addition. This coaster also brings the largest line of the park. It's a big crowd favorite. Even though it has a long coaster train, these operations are horrendous on this one. I don't know why they don't let you get through the gate as people are exiting. However, it is quite beautiful at night, and I'm glad that is the time I went to ride it. It really shows the true nature of this space-themed coaster as you're on your rocket. The best part of this ride is probably the forceful helix around the little galaxy light feature. It's definitely the highlight I had. Also, the station is really beautiful at night, just lighting up, glowing. It was really cool. Overall, Tivoli Gardens is a quite beautiful park. From the amazing atmosphere to shows, as well as some of these roller coasters, really bring a fun family atmosphere for anyone that is trying to visit the Copenhagen area. They also have a nice fireworks show during the summer, which was really enjoyable. Overall, this two-park day was a lot of fun and a great way to start off my Coaster Crew Northern adventure. About an hour south, Kolmarden would land on our second day of this trip.
This is probably one of the most bizarre theme parks, where we are encountering the dog fart coaster, or where we see Henry farting as we go around the coaster.
Take it all in.
This park in general is just full of all these different IPs for their candy,
fun, actually. I enjoyed
including the dog fart, where they sell candies of dog poop, as well as a lot of other things that are questionable. After Hundebruten, there's Vindsvanet, which was a fun hog roller coaster. But this Eurofighter was the first of its kind, and a really cool thing for the manufacturer Gerstlauer. It was a lot of fun. I thought this was actually one of their best ones that I've gone on. I've only done Mystery Mine, as well as a couple others, but this was by far my favorite. It definitely has a very interesting layout with a little wave turn, a vertical loop, and a few other little helixes and twists and turns, which was a lot of fun. It's definitely nice not having the holding drop after the break as well, which makes it a lot more fun, a lot more forceful with that airtime in the back. Despite this park being a very oddly themed place, it was actually very charming, and I thought the rides were really good quality. It's definitely a park that was memorable, and I really enjoyed my time here. You don't need that much time as long as it's not busy. And I'm not sure if it's always not busy, but when we went on a weekday, it was not too bad. Another fun ride was the spinner, Handkatten, or Tomcat. It was a really interesting ride and very good spinning when you have the car loaded with just 2 people. We had a great time on this one, and it was definitely my second favorite.
Yeah.
Another interesting one was their log ride that was themed to the rats. It was a really interesting ride and pretty fun to get wet. Also, they had a nice log flume, which I thought was amazing. Great theming, awesome waterfalls. It was quite an experience. There was also quite a forceful drop tower, which I thought was really fun.
Let's see. No.
Additionally, there was a nice boat ride that took you through the different areas of the world, starting off with the USA, which was fun for us to enjoy. On top of the larger drop tower, there was another drop tower, which was crazy, built by S&S. With quite a mild beginning, this ride finally gets you to the top, and you definitely get shooken out of your seat. It was pretty wild. Lastly, there was a wacky worm ride that just sprawls throughout the back of this park. It was the longest train I've ever seen, and it was just interesting to see it going through everywhere. There was also a dinghy slide, which I had never tried, and it was a lot of fun. Overall, this park is just beautiful, and I loved it. There are so many quirks to this park, and it's just so much fun.
After Bonbon Land, we made a 3-hour drive to Tivoli Friheden. Today I'm going to get my 300th credit at this beautiful park that has this crazy drop tower, but not much else more. Let's check it out. Of all the days to hit 300 coasters, it would be this park with only 3 credits. However, I made the best of it. Never been on an SPF Visa spinner, so I thought this would be the time with Base Farven. It was definitely a cute themed ride, but not the most fun. There was a lot of other things to do though. A lot of flat rides that were more fun than some of these roller coasters. They had a dragon coaster, a little wacky worm thing, as well as a spinning wild mouse, but I think the flats were where it's at. This park was definitely just get my credits and then just have a good time, eat some good food, and check out what else they had. So it was a lot of fun in some regard. And they also had a really cool shooting dark ride that I thought was fairly good for a little horror-themed dark ride. Additionally, this swinging pendulum ride was a lot of fun as well. I wish that the seats also rotated, but it was good enough and could have been a little bit more exciting, but still a lot of fun going all the way upside down on this thing. The drop tower was definitely a lot more fun, and I thought it was really cool that they also have the observation option. Another cute thing was these little boats that you could ride around the lake and just check out everything. And there was also these flyers that were a lot of fun, but I couldn't quite get them to spin that well. But it was cool how they recorded your spins and you could be on the leaderboard. But overall, it's just such a beautiful park, and it was just nice to just chill out here, take it easy, and just begin for the storm that was about to happen after this trip. Overall, this park is gorgeous, and I definitely recommend it for families, but not so much for coaster enthusiasts until they get their new roller coaster next year. The next day we made a 1-hour drive to Djurs Sommerland. Despite it being a rainy and cold day, this was my favorite park in Denmark. Let me tell you why I think it's the best in Denmark. And if you like this video, please give me a like and feel free to comment and let me know how it's going. The first thing you see when you get into Djurs Sommerland is PeriTune, but also Dragekongen. This intimate and suspended roller coaster was a lot of fun. It pulled some good G's, but it wasn't too forceful, but it was also a very cold and windy day. I love its sprawling layout and amazing theming. It was really cool going into this temple themed station, seeing it just twist and turn throughout the layout. It was really fun and a really good family ride. The dramatic scene and launch out of the station was a really cool surprise, and it was just so moody in there with the cool lighting. It was a really cool experience. If the amazing theming of Dragekongen wasn't really cool, their log flume was also amazingly themed with this amazing mountain just sculpted into the landscape, looking like it was just naturally there. It's not the most interesting log flume, but the way it just hugs the terrain and goes throughout the forest was really interesting and really beautiful to watch. A really interesting new area of the park was the dinosaur land. It was amazing theming, but the main attraction that we were here for was the roller coaster, specifically this mock power coaster. Having being my second mock power coaster of the trip after Tivoli Gardens, this was an interesting one to try, and it was also pretty forceful in the helixes, much more than the Galaxy coaster at Tivoli Gardens. Another cool roller coaster was Thor's Hammer. This bobsled coaster by Gerstlauer was an amazing ride and such an interesting change from the typical Wild Mouse coaster. As with all these rides, the theming was amazing. You actually are so immersed getting into Thor's workshop, and then you get out to this ride and feel the mighty wrath of Thor. You get some really cool experiences almost dipping into the water, as well as just zooming throughout this like treetop forest area. Another fun ride that we were able to go on was Juvelin. Juvelin is a great intimate and straddle coaster, and it was one of my favorites. It had a lot of force. Even though the rain was blinding us, it worked out really well, and we had a lot of fun. Another cool area was the Pirate Land, where they had PeriTune, as well as the water coaster. I was able to go on the small little boat ride as well, which was an interesting log flume. But nothing too exciting, but something new to experience, so I definitely recommend checking that out. Once again, this park seems like you're at Disneyland or something, really with great theming. I know Europe has a lot of great theming, but this park really excels in it. Next, I was going to the water coaster. This was a typical water coaster for the most part, but it was a lot of fun. You don't get too wet, which was great. After that, I had my first try on PeriTune. PeriTune was a lot of fun. It's a really interesting Intamin Megalight coaster that I had never experienced before. Looking at the layout, it looked like a mini i305, which I was really excited for. Unfortunately, the forces were not as intense as I had thought. It is definitely pretty small in height, being just over 100 feet or so. However, with these small little snappy turns and things like that, as well as the cool airtime hills, I thought I was going to get a lot more ejection. The actual big highlight of this ride was just getting the ERT with Coaster Crew and just being able to re-ride it, as well as pass the sword throughout the train, which made it a lot more interesting to enjoy. Hopefully on a hotter day, it might be a little bit more fun. Overall, the enthusiasm of all the employees here made riding these roller coasters so much more fun, as well as just the theming, the costumes the staff would wear. And a really big highlight was just doing this behind the stage tour of PeriTune. Seeing the whole second train of the car, which we weren't seeing throughout the whole day, and just getting to see everything was a really cool treat. Being able to walk the infield as well, and even touch the track, and walk on the track, and climb on the track was unbelievable. It was really interesting to see, and it was a fun thing to even go into this tunnel that the train goes into and see how sandy it was in there. And it was just an odd experience overall, but a lot of fun. And I highly recommend going on one of these trips with coaster enthusiasts if you want to get these amazing tours. Seeing this jumbled piece of tracks just all throughout was really cool too. And it was just such an awe-inspiring moment to just be in the middle of it all. As I keep stressing, I just think this park is so beautiful. I want to come back here on a nice warm day and just enjoy everything that it has to offer. It was a really amazing park, and it was sad to go, but I had a great time. And with one last thought, I went on one of these slides and slipped when I was climbing all the way up and hurt my knee. You definitely want to be careful on these, but it's a lot of fun. After a rainy but really fun day at Djurs Sommerland, we made the 2-hour drive up to Farup. Come join me as I fare this crazy hurricane on Orkanen to start the day. See what it's all about here. This being the original Vekoma family suspended coaster that is the same as Dragonflyer, I enjoyed it more. The great thing about Orkanen is it's right by the Farup Hotel which we stayed in, and I recommend it highly. Bakken on the other side, next to Orkanen, was not something I was able to get onto because of the high winds. This never opened up. As we were dealing with this crazy weather during this trip, it was a cool S&S roller coaster that I was hoping to get on, but didn't have the chance. Tusenfryd was the only other roller coaster that was nearby. This small little family roller coaster was a lot of fun, but nothing too exciting. And there's Flaggermusen, or the Bat. And this ride was not very spinny for it being Reverchon spinning Wild Mouse roller coaster. However, it had some very interesting technical difficulties. Having just to get to the lift hill, they had to put on WD-40. Another fun one was 7, which means saw. This boomerang coaster was a really cool ride, and I just fell in love with it, how it just sprawled throughout here, dipping in tunnels, as well as just getting an idea of what Good Gravy would be like at Holiday World coming up this next coaster season. But this ride was a lot of fun. It was just a really exciting way to start the day, having something new that I had never tried out. But as you can see, this wind was no joke. It was really cold and windy day, but we made the best of it, got on what we could, and Savin was just a really great one to enjoy. Dipping my hand in the water, as they have a little water feature, which was cool, and then just having the cool forces of just going back and forth. Even though it's a more of a family coaster, it was still a good thrill. I'm just happy that it was open on such a crazy windy day. Since there wasn't much to do, this was definitely one of the top favorites of the group, and we probably rode this over 10, 15 times because it was just such a great time, and it's one of my favorites at the park as far as the top 3 not being open. The next ride that we had was Mein Expressen. This Vekoma Junior coaster was a clone of many others, but this forested park just made it so much more exciting. Just going through the trees, even on this windy day, just made it even more interesting. Hearing the bell of the train was a lot of fun too, just making you feel more immersed into the atmosphere of what this mine train was like. It was just a really cool thing to experience, and not the most thrilling, but something to pass the time. And as we get into seeing these other rides after this one, It's amazing how scenic this park was, with this forested area just so immersed in it. And this little fun house was a lot of fun. Now as we get into the top 3 of this park, Linné was the Skurslower launch coaster that we were not able to get onto. It looked like a really cool layout, although it being very short, and I was a little bummed to not be able to do it. Next we had the biggest disappointment, Phoenix. This Vekoma Wildcat model was just a really unfortunate thing not to be able to go on. It just looked amazing. The theming here with this Viking looking structure, the corkscrew through the building, it was just a really hard thing to look at. And I kept hoping throughout the day, maybe it will open, maybe it's getting better, but the weather never held up. Enjoy the ride here in all its beauty, in all its track, but no train. I know one day I'll get back to this, and I'm excited to see this again. But when you're here, you might as well enjoy the playground if nothing else is open, even if you might get blown off the top. Another fun thing that I did was just trying this old car ride. So enjoy this car ride POV, should be fun. Overall, Farup Sommerland is an amazing, beautifully placed. I want to go back, and I can't wait to see it again. After Farup Sommerland, we made our way to Tusenfryd, and it was a journey that we were not expecting. Funny story, the way I had to get from Farup Sommerland to here was supposed to be by ferry. However, it was cancelled because of the big storm that was happening, and we didn't want something like this to happen to us. Luckily, we were able to just take our bus, but it was going to take a long time to get there in the small, cramped bus. But we would be able to get our coaster credits, so that's all that really mattered, right?
10 hours later.
Red-eyed and groggy from the long bus ride and trying to sleep, we finally made it to Tusenfryd. This beautiful area with Bead Monster on top of the hill was just an amazing sightline to come to after such a long time in a bus. Moving on, let's talk about this amazing day at Tusenfryd, filled with ERT and some amazing moments. If you like videos like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the video and let me know what you think about these. The excitement in the air from the stinky coaster enthusiasts having spent all this time on the bus was making us excited for the morning ERT. We would first start our way up the hill, up these escalators to get into the park and get our first rides on Storm, the dragon coaster. The park opens up to this beautiful carousel. The long walk up to Storm passes Thunder Coaster, as well as a few flat rides, which are a lot of fun. At the top of the hill, we finally meet Storm, the dragon coaster, in all its glory. We were all excited to try this new for 2023 Skurslower suspended roller coaster. With the ERT, we were able to get 2 runs throughout the course, which made it a lot more fun than the usual one cycle operation. On the second launch, you go swinging backwards, and then in the back row is the best spot, since you get so much hang time on this element. Overall, Dragon Coaster is a lot of fun. The hang time on this element was really cool. And then after this, going into this crazy airtime hill was like ejector on a suspended coaster, which was quite amazing. After that, you go through a dive loop and then finish off the ride with this reverse sidewinder. This roller coaster really packs a punch and was just an amazing experience for me. Having the 2 cycles, like I said, was the highlight though. Next, we moved down the hill back towards Speed Monster. We got to check out the hydraulic system, which was really amazing. If you ever get to see one of these Intamin hydraulic launch systems, it's really amazing, but also very loud. So ear protection is always useful if you're there for a long period. It's impressive to see how this hydraulic system pressurizes all the fluid to launch the coaster. After checking out the hydraulic system house, we were able to walk the infield of Speed Monster, which was really cool. Being able to be up close and personal with this roller coaster was awesome. And then we got to finally start our ERT on this really beautiful coaster. This Intamin accelerator coaster doesn't really have the most punchy launch, but the Norwegian loop was a lot of fun. Overall, this ride is just alright, but it was beautiful scenery as you're riding along the hillside. After this, we made our way to Loopin, which is their Vekoma looping coaster. This coaster was surprisingly smooth for me, and I really enjoyed it. The closest thing to this that I've rode was Ninja at Six Flags St. Louis. However, this is on a much smaller scale. After Loopin, the next closest one was Hurry Hurry. This spinning coaster was a little boring, didn't spin as much as I'd like. After that, we moved on to Thunder Coaster. This Vekoma wooden coaster was very interesting, having the Gravity Group Timberliner trains. Although it's not the most comfortable roller coaster ride, it was a lot of fun. One major down draw is that after the first drop on the turnaround, there's a little bit of a jackhammering that hurts. But the airtime on this roller coaster was a lot of fun, and the laterals as well. The use of terrain on this roller coaster made it really memorable and a very long ride, but getting to the coaster through the queue was a little bit difficult with the steep slope. After Thunder Coaster, we made it down to the Viking area, where they had the Super Splash ride. This water coaster was a lot of fun, didn't get us too wet, which was great, because it was such a stormy day. But overall, pretty fun, nothing too exciting. Basically just a one and done for me. However, it's definitely appropriate theming for the Viking area with the boats. And then there's Thor's Hammer, which was a lot of fun to check out. This Shooting Dark ride was not the most exciting in storytelling, but fun to see it carved into the mountainside. After that, there's this awesome rapids ride called Ragnarok, which really is an amazingly themed rapids ride, my favorite probably. The elements of the rapids ride aren't that exciting, but the overall theming and just kind of storytelling that it does is really impressive. It also runs the course really quickly. Since it runs the course so fast, it's really impressive and it makes you feel like you're going to get a large splash, but for the most part, you stay pretty dry. After Ragnarok, I made my way back up the hill, all the way to the top near Storm for Western Expressen. This junior coaster from Vekoma, pretty basic, very common clone. It was nothing to write home about. After some lunch, I got to go on the infamous Teeny Weeny, which finally the weather cleared up and stopped raining, so we were able to go on this small little kiddie coaster, which is said to be the tiniest coaster, but it didn't seem that small. Since I had all the credits, I wanted to give Speed Monster a final try at the end of the day since it was near the exit. It was definitely better riding it now that it was sunny and not raining on us. But still, it was a little sluggish and didn't really pull the forces that I was hoping for. Overall, this park was amazing. The scenery, the coasters, the landscaping, pretty much all of it, really. However, the roller coaster collection wasn't the greatest, besides Storm, but it was a really fun, exhausting day. After Tusenfryd, we made the relatively short drive of 3.5 hours to Grand Curiosa Hotel in Liseberg. Is it the best park in Sweden, or even all of Scandinavia? After a short hiatus from posting videos from my Nordic adventure trip, I'm back with the doozy today with a report from Liseberg. This park was a huge highlight of my trip to Scandinavia and may just have some of the best coasters. Let's take a look. If you like videos like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so I can produce more like this. Liseberg is a beautiful park with amazing sightlines all around, from the beautiful coaster-filled hill, wonderful water features, and amazing scenery that immerses you within the park, that's surrounded by factories and residences you wouldn't realize are there. Starting the day at the park was amazing, and we couldn't wait to get up to the hill for the new 2023 edition, Luna. Although this is the same layout as 7 at Farup Sommerland, it was so impressive to see this perched up on the hill and towering above the pathways. These Vekoma family boomerangs are a lot of fun, and it will be exciting to get one in 2024 at Holiday World in Santa Claus, Indiana with good gravy. Hope to see you guys at Hollywood Nights. Another great thing about the park is their virtual queue system that you can access on their mobile app and works just like how Disney did their Fastback back in the day. One thing we noticed about their virtual queue was that it didn't start working until about 30 minutes after the park opened. Therefore, we made our way down to Liseberg since we had heard this ride gets quite busy, and it definitely proved true later in the day. Luckily for us, the line was still short and an easy walk on. The station was quite beautiful with a train-themed station. The ride is interesting, traveling up the hill and spiraling up and down the hill with some forceful laterals during multiple helices, but it's a little repetitive. It's a fun ride and a highlight of the trip, since I always enjoy Sportskop roller coasters. However, I think I prefer other Sportskops like Colossus, the Fire Dragon at Lagoon, and Utah more. After that, our first reservation on the highly anticipated Helix, a mock multi-launch coaster, was ready, so we headed up the hill once again, but on the other side of the park, where it takes you directly to the area where the ride sits on top of the hill, along with the once observation tower, now drop tower, Atmosphere. Access to the hill on either side is really convenient using escalators, but there is also a walking path on the side closest to Helix if you want the workout. Once at the top, the line for Helix is quite epic with its iconic soundtrack. The line is alive with movement with pathways that are almost like the crazy staircase painting. With a virtual queue, the line was a station wait and much faster to get to the station. First and foremost, Helix is a beautiful roller coaster off-ride, traversing most of the hillside and is a big part of the skyline. From the drop out of the station to the huge inverted top hat, both going over the path. This ride is an icon in this park. The on-ride experience also doesn't disappoint. However, I had some big expectations and thought this would be my favorite of the trip since it looked like an amazing terrain coaster. Overall, this coaster is an amazing engineering feat, using the terrain to its benefit, along with impressive supports and foundations to safely support the structure, especially during the top hat, Norwegian loop, and some of the large airtime hills. The ride experience is unbelievable with a long duration and some fun elements like those previously mentioned, but they're all relatively mild, besides the airtime hills that eject you out of your seat, some of the quick turns, and the inline twists at the end of the layout. Nonetheless, this roller coaster is still a top 50 coaster for me, but not as elite as I had imagined. The great thing about this coaster is it is re-rideability. We were able to get an hour of exclusive ride time, or ERT, after the park closed, and it was such a thrill at night, intensifying the speed. Additionally, the lighting on the train made it more exciting on and off ride. With just under 80 people on the trip, we were able to ride non-stop for an hour, and I still felt like I could continue riding despite the thigh pain from all the ejector airtime. Another highlight of Liseberg was Valkyria, which replaced Kanonen, which is now at Lost Island Theme Park in Iowa. This was a great replacement, giving another eye-catching ride that, although short, was a nice, forceful B&M mini dive coaster. I have a bit of a bias towards longer rides, but this still was a lot of fun and a highlight of the park. It also has a single rider line, so that helps a lot at this very popular ride being their newest extreme coaster. The last major coaster of the park is Balder. It looks like a bit of an uninspired layout filled mostly with airtime hills, but its use of tunnels to keep the sound down from the nearby residents really enhances the ride and makes you feel even more out of control at night. The turnarounds are definitely a bit boring, but giving you a bit of a break from the relentless floater airtime throughout. The ride is extremely re-rideable, and we were able to ride this for a straight hour during our nighttime ERT, switching back between rows until we ended up staying in the second to last row, which was great. One thing interesting to note was the clearance of the support structure. You definitely want to keep your hands down on this one if you have long arms, since I know I touched my fingers to the supports. Some of the other highlights of this park include its wide array of family attractions with a couple of family coasters and an interesting dark ride that takes you underground to the rabbit hole, which is home to the Rabbit Park mascot, and goes through an adventure as some guy tries to ruin our fun. There's also a haunted house walkthrough that is very impressive and well themed, but a little strange having to hold onto the shoulders of strangers in front of you as they try to run away sometimes when they're scared. Additionally, there's a variety of flat rides that are a lot of fun, especially Loki, the Intamin pendulum ride. With an awesome log flume being discontinued in 2023, I'm curious if they'll get another roller coaster, possibly a water coaster that uses the hillside where the log flume was. The interaction the log flume has with all the roller coasters up on the hill is really remarkable, and it's going to be sorely missed. Overall, Liseberg is a beautiful park with a great collection of roller coasters. It's definitely worth 2 days to fully experience the park and enjoy walking around and seeing every nook and cranny of it. Even with 2 days, I'm sure I missed something and would gladly come back. It's definitely one of the most photogenic parks, and I was perfectly content spending my second morning under Helix watching it fly across the walkway up on the hill. This place is truly amazing, and I recommend it to everyone, even if you're not a roller coaster enthusiast. Nothing is too intense, and it's just a lot of fun. The views at night were even more mesmerizing, and it was really cool walking out of the park underneath Valkyria. I hope you liked this video. Please give it a like to help me spread the video to others, and be sure to subscribe if you want more content like this. After an amazing stay at the Grand Curacao Hotel at Liseberg, we made our way west about 2 hours from Liseberg to Skara Sommerland for an interesting day. Now that things were back on track since Tropical Storm Hans had mostly cleared out, things were looking brighter. After the fun at Liseberg, we made our way to Skara Sommerland for some ERT on Trennen. This prototype SNS Freefly is the only one in the world and looked to be one of the best unique and interesting rides to experience in Scandinavia. Little did we know, things were not all right after all. As we arrived at the parking lot, it sounded like we wouldn't be able to ride at all. If you like videos like this, please consider subscribing and liking this video. After some time to get things coordinated, we left our bus thinking that we weren't going to be able to get a ride on this rare roller coaster since it needed a part that they didn't have stocked. However, when we got into the park, we could see it testing in the distance. Our hearts raced and our steps quickened as we couldn't wait to get on it. Unfortunately, that was the only test we saw during the short stay there. Luckily, the park was kind enough to get us some ERT on their first-gen Mauer spinning wild mouse spinner. It was underwhelming to say the least, since unlike the name, we barely spun. With not much to do, we decided to do it a second time to see if we should get a more unbalanced ride, but it still was lackluster. The park wanted to make things right with more ERT, but brought us to a flat ride since their other roller coaster was down. After getting a ride, we were more than ready to get out of there and head to Kolmarden Zoo for Wildfire. After a little less than an hour, we made it and were psyched to get on Wildfire, another bucket list coaster of the trip. Little did we know how big this park was.
One hour later.
After the treacherous journey uphill to the back of the park, we finally made it here after a 20-minute walk, past animals and small rides. Luckily for us, the line for this was very short despite the one-train operations, and we were so excited to see the coaster in all its glory. The views from the top overlooking the water were amazing, and flying through the woods was exhilarating. However, the second half seemed to lack speed, which made it a bit underwhelming. Still an amazing ride, but it lacked a little bite with some elements that seemed to crawl through. Overall, Wildfire is a really fun ride, but not my favorite topper track RMC roller coaster. Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City and Goliath at Six Flags Great America gave a lot more airtime and are more forceful from my experience. Nonetheless, it's still a great coaster within the top 15% of my 338 credits, and is an incredible ride with an amazing setting. Another really cool thing that we got to do on our Coasters Crew trip was get this behind the scenes tour where we actually got to walk on and over the track. It was such a cool experience since this would never be allowed while the coaster was in motion in the United States. Another interesting thing was going into the storage shed, where we got to see the second train, which is barely ever used since this park doesn't get enough attendance. An interesting thing that we learned was that the trains are stored on their upstop wheels, or the wheels that keep them from lifting off the track. This is to ensure that the ride wheels that are on top of the track do not get warped over time. Luckily enough for us, on our ERT day for the second day in a row, we were able to get the second train on the tracks, so it was fresh for us to use. Over the 2 days of ERT, I was able to get about 20 rides on Wildfire. Despite Wildfire being our main attraction to Kolmarden Zoo, this place is really something special. It's not only a large zoo, but an amazingly themed place to explore. There's a couple of small roller coasters for the families. One dolphin-themed coaster called Delfin Expressen near Wildfire. Another family roller coaster called Godisdaget is a candy train themed roller coaster in the middle of the park with amazing theming, and it has a really cool, fun kids area with a playground. The zoo exhibits are very large with a variety of animals, with the tiger exhibit being the best themed and landscaped. However, the best part, in my opinion, is the gondola safari, where you get stunning views of wildfire and the nearby waterway. Additionally, it's a really cool way to see a variety of different animals and learn about them through audio narration. Overall, Kolmarden Zoo is an amazing place. It makes you feel like you're totally immersed in the forest, and these animals just happen to be there. I'm thankful that the park was bought by the same company that Gronalund owns, since it gave us an awesome coaster with wildfire, and a reason to come to this park, which would have likely been overlooked. If you're ever in Stockholm, Sweden, it's definitely worth the road trip out there. After Kolmarden Zoo and wildfire, we finally made it to Stockholm, Sweden. This was our final stretch, and we finally made it to Gronalund. An amazing park. If you like roller coaster content like this, I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a like and a subscribe if you want more. This beautiful seaside park in Stockholm, Sweden is home to amazing roller coasters and a bunch of them packed into this small plot of land. The main gate is nothing special, but we were so excited to get on this big roller coaster here, Monster, which was in the front of the park. Everywhere you looked, it just towered over you. This amazing park was like a beautiful carnival, or even like a beach boardwalk. It just had so many midway games, so much things to look at, so many roller coasters just around you. It was quite a spectacle. And even though it was small, it felt really big. After getting our bearings around the park, we were going to get our first ride on Monster. This station is amazing, feeling like you're in a subway, which is very fitting being it underground. As we waited for the back row for the best seat, it was so cool to be able to be in the station and feel all the excitement around us. This ride was going to be amazing, and we just couldn't wait. This ride was a main focal point of the park, and you could definitely tell, and just the engineering behind it was amazing. With it being the newest coaster in the park, it was definitely really cool to see these giant, massive structure coming out of the ground, and all the work that was put into making this thing underground near a seaside area was just so cool to see. Enough talking. Let's take a ride on Monster. It's definitely a short ride, but the way it weaves through all the buildings and just does everything so gracefully was quite amazing. Our next ride on the docket was insane. And boy oh boy did this bring back flashbacks of the Green Lantern at Six Flags Magic Mountain. However, this was supposed to be a lot better, and it was in a beautiful setting in the sunset. So why not enjoy it, right? Oddly enough, it was a little hard to find this. Made you feel a little insane, but it was not that difficult once you got around the building into the entrance. However, this thing is great to watch people go insane on this thing. I know I definitely did, and I probably went on it about 12 times. Although it's not the best ride, it definitely gives you a lot of bang for your buck, and just, you never know what to expect, so figure why not when there's no wait for this thing. Might as well enjoy, or possibly not enjoy. It's definitely that big of a bipolar kind of ride. This park was really cool with some rooftop views and rooftop restaurants, so we could even see Insane and Monster just pass through this area. Hopefully you don't go insane seeing all this footage of Insane, because I really enjoyed it, despite what everyone says about it. If you want intensity, this is the ride for you. So hopefully you can make it to one of these parks in Europe where they have them still. These Intamin Zack spins are no joke. The funniest thing is sometimes you'll have a ride where you basically do nothing, and it's just a little walk in the park, and then the other times you go way too wild and you start flipping and landing on your head. After Insane, we were ready for some Wildemusen. This Gersla or bobsled coaster was an exciting, different thing that we're not used to in the US. It was nice to have another cool bobsled coaster that wasn't like the Mack Wild Mouses that are so boring. This one was a really interesting theme as well, but the queue was insanely claustrophobic and super tight. However, outside of the station, the roller coaster sprawled across the midway. The way it was tangled up with Jetliner was really cool, even though we weren't able to get on Jetliner. After Wildemusen, we went on Kvasten, which is a witch-themed roller coaster, Vekoma Hang and Bang. It was really cool how this thing just hovered over and flew over the midway as well. And it had some very nice theming as it went through the station, as well as some little houses. Even though it has the same layout as the one in Fun Spot Orlando, this one was a lot better for the fact that it goes around the buildings and trees, and it just gives you more obstacles to dodge. That was the really highlight of this park. It does that really well. Next we went on to the other side of the park, which is like the kiddie land. There we went on some very fun little kiddie roller coasters. We started off with this little train ride. It was really silly, but it took forever. Tuff Tuff Target. This thing was like the teeny weeny ride that we had at Tusenfryd, but bigger. And even more funny. How you just meander there, it just makes you laugh. But we still had a lot of fun being all the adults on this little train. After that, we stepped it up. It was time for the Ladybug coaster. We weren't messing around with LiQWYD. All jokes aside, this is a great kiddie area for families. With all the coasters out of our way, since Jetliner and Twister were out of the question, since Twister was out of commission for retracking, and Jetliner was unfortunately down due to the incident that happened there. However, just walking around this place at night is just so beautiful. It's amazing seeing the lights, the movement, so dynamic. Next I want to highlight the flat rides. Icarus, this fun time drop tower, was quite amazing. It's similar to Falcon's Fury at Busch Gardens, Tampa, but this thing was just amazing, having a seaside view. It also just looked so shiny and new, and it was just a fun way to see something different. It looks like this one has 2 sides, but they were only running the one side. Not sure if that's the common operations, but it also wasn't that crowded. One thing for sure on this drop tower, it packs a punch. It's amazing how fast you fall and how quickly you swing at the bottom. It definitely hurt my leg, and that's just because I had heard it dumbly at Djurs Sommerland earlier in this trip. They also had a really cool, fun, scary dark ride, as well as a really fun fun house, but I didn't get any video of that, unfortunately. However, the fun house was really cool with the amazing little slide at the end. As previously mentioned, this park is amazing at night. Seeing Monster flying through the whole park was awesome, and those lights just make it all the better. Overall, this is one of my favorite parks of the trip. It may be small, but it packs quite a punch, and it's just a really good time. I'm not sure if the park is always this empty, but you can just keep lapping all the coasters and just have a good time throughout the day. Valdemussen is definitely one of the most busy coasters there. With that, this has been CoasterKev, and I'm coasting out. Bye everyone. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you enjoyed it.